The Premier League transfer window is well and truly underway, and with Liverpool seemingly putting it into hyperspeed, I thought I'd better rush my video on one player that every Premier League club should sign. Let's get on with it, shall we? Starting off with Brighton, I've gone for Johan Bonney, the striker from Parma, who's got 8 goals and assists this year, and while those numbers aren't too impressive on the eye, he is really physical, really strong, got a bit of pace about him, and could really cause problems in the Premier League. With Welbeck not getting any younger and João Pedro touted with a potential move away from the Seagulls, Johan Bonney could represent good business at a cheaper price for what they could sell Pedro for. For Fulham, I've gone with 6'2" defensive midfielder Vinicius Souza. With Sheffield United failing to get over the line in that playoff final against Sunderland, Souza could be looking for a move away. It is likely he will get a move away this summer. He was ridiculous in the Championship last year, great defensive numbers, insane physicality, sort of in the mould of a João Palhinha. So Fulham, it went well last time. Let's try it again. I think he'd blend really nicely in a midfield with Sander Berger and a more technical number 10. Andreas Pereira looks like he could be on the move, but Emile Smith-Rowe, and they've still got players around that sort of area of the pitch like Alex Iwobi who could step into that midfield and make a really physical midfield for Fulham. If you had a midfield three of Sander Berger, Alex Iwobi and Vinicius Souza, not many people are muscling you off the ball. For Nottingham Forest, I've gone with Wolfsburg target man Jonas Wind. And I know what you might be thinking. What's happening with Chris Wood? Now, Chris Wood is absolutely fine, and I'm sure he'll hit 12 to 15 Premier League goals next season. But Nottingham Forest have got Europe, and they're going to need backup. And Jonas Wind would be a great addition. I don't imagine that he would cost a ridiculous fee from Wolfsburg. He's a great target man. He can arguably link up the play, I would argue, better than Chris Wood, in which a Forest team that counter-attacks so well, being able to hold up the ball is crucial. It hasn't quite worked for Taiwo 1 year, unfortunately, in Nottingham Forest, the way that they would have potentially have liked it to since his first season. And although you could gamble on a 1 year coming back in his third season at Forest and performing to the levels to be a good backup for Chris Wood, with European football, it could be worth going out and signing a backup. They're going to need a deeper squad to really take them to that next level and to challenge within Europe next year. And I just think Jonas Wind would be a great fold for Chris Wood. For Tottenham Hotspur, I've gone for a number 6, and I've gone for Sporting CP's Martin Hjulmand. I've seen a lot of Spurs fans crying out for a number 6 who can really take the ball under pressure, and Hjulmand is just that. I wouldn't be surprised if Manchester United tried to make a late move for him with his links to Ruben Amorim, but the money might not quite be there for United after that European final loss to Tottenham, who could go and pinch the Sporting man. Great on and off the ball. As much as Spurs fans, I'm sure they love Basuma at times, but on the ball can be shaky when taking it off of the back four at the best of times. It remains to be seen whether Ange Postecoglou will be at the club, but at the moment I would bet that it's probably more likely that he won't be than he will be, in which case a new manager will come in with new ideas, fresh ideas, and a new way of playing. But ultimately, a number 6 is crucial to any formation. And so that's why I've gone with Martin Hjulmand. West Ham United, I have gone for Coventry City midfielder Jack Rodoni. Rodoni had a great campaign last season, especially in the second half once Frank Lampard had come in. In my opinion, he can play as a 6, he can play as an 8, or he can play as a 10. But one thing that Rodoni brings week in, week out is bucket loads of energy. And that is something that will be loved by any manager within the league. Loads of energy, loads of ball carries, a great player on and off the ball. He's really developed off the ball over the last few years. During his time at Huddersfield Town, I didn't really see him as a 6. I didn't really see him as a defensive player at all, to be honest. I saw him as a winger and a number 10. But since moving to Coventry and since Frank Lampard's come in, he's really shown that he is sort of not necessarily a 6 out and out. You'd have to play him alongside somebody else, in my opinion, like a Thomas Souček. But he certainly has enough defensive nous to play in a double pivot. He could also as well play as an 8 or a 10, really carrying the ball into the final third and looking for those passes into Mohamed Kudus and Jarrod Bowen if they are still at the club this time in August. For Aston Villa, I've gone for a little bit of nostalgia. Jack Grealish could return to the club. Now hear me out. I appreciate Grealish's time at City, especially within the last year to 18 months, hasn't been what he would have liked it to have been, I think, if he's honest with himself. But I can sense a little bit of a comeback in the air. He's not been included in the Manchester City Club World Cup squad, and I imagine that he will be looking for a move away this summer. And why not finish your career at Aston Villa, or at least finish your Premier League career at Aston Villa? And this isn't the Aston Villa that you left. It's an Aston Villa punching in Europe. Unai Emery is an absolute master in the Europa League. And so for Grealish to come back and potentially win that with his boyhood club, I'm sure it would entice him. But let's forget about Jack for a moment. Is this worth it for Aston Villa? I don't see why not. Marco Asensio obviously is going to leave the club and go back to PSG. It remains to be seen whether Villa will bring him back in. But I don't see them as two dissimilar players when Grealish is flying. Grealish can carry the ball. He's undoubtedly one of the best in the world at winning a foul. And I really, really would like to see him linking up with this new iteration of Ollie Watkins that we've seen under Unai Emery. And just in this Villa system, I think I can see this working. Now for Chelsea, I have gone with a goalkeeper. I think it's been clear to see over the last couple of years for Chelsea that a world-class striker and a world-class goalkeeper are all that they've really needed to challenge, if we're being honest, within the last 18 months. And so we've gone with a goalkeeper because they've just signed Liam Delap. And I am suggesting someone that they are currently in talks with, and that's Mike Maignan. Now, I want to claim credit for this, even though I know this is going out afterwards, but I had Maignan in this list weeks ago. And now it could be happening. No, I'm no messiah. Maignan is a world-class goalkeeper. He's going into the last year of his contract. It's a simple one to suggest, isn't it? Suggest it is what I will do. I will point out the obvious if it is the obvious. Maignan, Chelsea, unbelievable shot stopper. Just get it done. For Crystal Palace, I am working on an assumption that I am making later in this video, and that is that they are going to need a centre-back. If you know, you know. And for that centre-back, I've gone with Maxime Esteve from Burnley. Class. Absolute class act, Esteve, and I'm sure Burnley won't let him go cheap. So it may cost you, but like I said, later in this video, you're probably going to get some money coming in the other way. And you've got European football now. It's not like you're going from Burnley to Palace in a normal year where at best you're moving from a club that were potentially going to be relegated, sorry Burnley fans, to a club that are probably going to be safe in the Premier League. You move into a European, you go into Europe, you go into the Europa League. That FA Cup win has put Palace in a really strong position to negotiate for those players slightly lower down the table now. And I've gone for Maxime Esteve to come through the door at Palace. A strong defender, has that record in the Championship last year with Burnley that was unbelievable. And in my opinion, he was probably the key player in that. And so Maxime Esteve to play on the left-hand side of Crystal Palace's defence in Europe. Now then, for Manchester City, I have gone with a bit of a rogue one, but I'm going for it. I don't think they'll be able to take Tino Livramento from Newcastle United, as they potentially hope that they can, in which case I have suggested another flying right-back from the Premier League, and that is Tottenham Hotspur's Pedro Porro. Porro is a great deliverer of the ball from that right-hand side. At times has put up similar numbers to Trent Alexander-Arnold. He's a really good crosser from deep. He's a really good crosser from higher up the pitch. And overall, just a great creator from right back. I expect Pep Guardiola next season to go for more traditional fullbacks. I think that's why the signing of Rayan Ait-Nouri makes so much sense for them. And I think they're going to want to, indicating that they'd go for Livramento, they're going to want to do the same thing on that right-hand side. And I don't think they'll get Tino Livramento, as I've just said. So Pedro Porro is the name I have put forward. Speaking of Newcastle and previously speaking of centre-backs and Crystal Palace, I think Newcastle should go for Marc Guéhi. It's no secret, Newcastle have admired Guéhi for a number of years now, and I expect him to go to Newcastle this summer. I don't think the European tour at Crystal Palace is going to be something that ties him down to sign a new deal there, in which case he's going to have to move if Palace wants to secure any finances for him, which in a world of PSR is important. From a Newcastle perspective, this is a no-brainer. Guéhi was England's outstanding performer at the last Euros. He's a class centre-half. And with Fabian Schär nearing the latter stages, nearing the twilight of his career, and also just needing more depth in that centre-back position, Marc Guéhi would be a perfect signing for Newcastle. For Burnley, I have gone for Adam Zorgan. Stick with me here. Player out of the Belgian league that has put up good numbers for assists and goals for a central midfielder who has covered a ridiculous amount of ground. I'm unsure if I'll be able to do it, but I will try and get his heat map on the screen here, I guess. It's practically all red. And you may be thinking, they don't have Vincent Kompany anymore. Why are we going for Belgian links? Scott Parker still worked in Belgium with Bruges, and I'm sure the amount of scouting that they did over there during the Vincent Kompany days, they aren't just going to rip it up and put it away. So Adam Zorgan is my suggestion for Burnley. Roaming around that midfield, I think a lot of teams that come out of the Championship and into the Premier League struggle with creativity from deeper areas is my personal gripe with it, and players that can get on the ball deeper and just keep it. And they don't manage to hold on to possession enough. And Adam Zorgan is a player that would be able to do that a little bit better for Burnley. For Everton, I have put forward Stuttgart forward Nilk Voltemade. Now, Everton are a club that I am quite giddy about going into the next season. I've got to be honest. David Moyes is a manager that I think is criminally underrated in the Premier League. What he did at West Ham, I think he was disrespected for. And what he's managed to do at Everton is far better than what any other manager within the last sort of 2 years has managed to do, and that is to put them into a decent place in mid-table going into this new stadium next season. But what about Nick Voltemade? Well, he's a 6'6" striker out of the Bundesliga with Stuttgart last season, who managed 14 goals and assists. 6'6", David Moyes, centre forward. I'm hearing goal songs in my ears from the new ground. Voltemade has a brilliant way of dribbling about him that you wouldn't expect at all from a man of his stature. He's really good with the ball at his feet. He links up the play really well. He's even played as a number 10 in times last season for Stuttgart, which, again, for a man who's 6'6", is frightening stuff. It's a new era for Everton going into that new stadium, and I expect there to be a lot of serious overhaul within that squad over the summer transfer window, and it's an exciting time to be a Toffee for the first time in what seems like a long time. Now, Liverpool got me thinking. Florian Wirtz is looking likely to be through the door within the next couple of weeks. Jeremy Frimpong, of course, has already been confirmed. Milos Kerkez looks as though he is also coming into Anfield. But what about a striker? Now, I think it's probably the worst kept secret in football that Darwin Núñez is going to be looked to be shifted out of Anfield. And over recent weeks, they've been linked to the likes of Hugo Ekitike. But I'm not doing the obvious this time. My suggestion this time is Evan Nilsson at Bournemouth, a player that presses really high and really well for an Andoni Iraola side that have performed well above what you would have expected from them this season. Like I said, he's a great presser, which will suit Arne Slots' system down to the ground. And he's really good in link-up, which is also going to bode well for Mo Salah, Florian Wirtz, Luis Diaz, Cody Gakpo, and the rest of that Liverpool squad, which is beginning to look slightly outrageous. As well as that, I think I also have this idea in my head that Evan Nilsson walking into Liverpool, at least for the immediate future, he wouldn't necessarily be demanding to be the A side in a team and demanding to play every week, in which case you can do the rotations that they have done with playing Luis Diaz up front. There's rumours that Florian Wirtz could be utilised as a false nine. And you'd be able to do that if you brought in Evan Nilsson. He wouldn't mind coming in and out of the side, especially with Liverpool surely going to play 50, 60 odd games next year. So Evan Nilsson from Bournemouth is my rogue shout for Liverpool. For Sunderland, I have suggested Gustavo Hamer. Now, this is a tactic that has been done before. Ipswich have done it, and I'm sure many other teams have done it, and that is get out of the Championship and then pluck out the best players. And Gustavo Hamer, in my opinion, is probably the best player in the Championship. He's played more as a left sort of sided midfielder this season for Sheffield United, but I believe his best position is in the centre of midfield. I feel like that's where he's allowed to carry the ball to his maximum potential, and he's really good defensively as well. Playing as a box-to-box midfielder, he's allowed to drive the ball forward from centre midfield and really cause damage to opposition defences and midfields. As well as that, there are rumours that Joe Bellingham could be leaving the club to go to Borussia Dortmund for around the region of £40 million, and I don't think you'd pay that for Hamer. I don't think you'd probably pay about half of that for Hamer, in which case you'd be able to back pocket the rest of that money and utilise it in other areas of the squad, because Sunderland are going to have to recruit really well if they want to stay in the Premier League next season. For Arsenal, I have gone with Benjamin Šeško. No, I'm not going for Gyökeres. I know, controversial, but we'll get into why. So the reason that I've gone for Benjamin Šeško over Viktor Gyökeres for Arsenal is that Šeško is an out-and-out destructor of a number 9. And you might be thinking, well, so is Viktor Gyökeres, and he is. But Gyökeres' run types are different. Gyökeres tends to drift over to the left-hand side and create a lot more for himself, which is completely fine, but not for Arsenal. For Arsenal, I've just gone with the powerful ball striker of a centre-forward who will bang goals in from outside the box, will bang headers in from inside the box. I think Šeško could be a really, really astute pickup. I saw it a couple of weeks ago. His ball striking is one of the best in Europe. And for me, I just think he's a bit more of a brute in and around the box. I think Gyökeres does his best work outside of the box or little dribbles within the box, which I think, again, is fine. But just for Arsenal, these crosses that come in from Saka, ideally from the left wing as well next season, Odegaard hopefully unlocking little balls in behind into the 6-yard area. I just think Šeško has more power to really bang them home. Now for Bournemouth, I have gone with a Milos Kerkez replacement, and that is Miguel Gutierrez. Now, Gutierrez is one of the best attacking left-backs in Europe, which obviously when replacing Milos Kerkez is really important. He's up in the high 90 percentiles for attacking stats this season, like progressive carries and progressive passes, which will really bode well for Bournemouth. Again, a team who really like to flip possession really quickly and get forward as soon as they can under Andoni Iraola. Gutierrez probably won't quite come cheap, but again, with the Milos Kerkez money coming into the club, with the Dean Howson money coming into the club, you would hope that Bournemouth will be able to go out and spend on replacements this summer. And so Gutierrez is my suggestion to take the reins from Milos Kerkez. Brentford, I've got two here because I couldn't decide, is my full transparency, and that is Tyler Diblin and Rooney Bargi. Now, first, I'll touch on Tyler Diblin because it's probably the one that is slightly more unrealistic, I think is fair to say. The reason being, they're going to lose Bryan Mbeumo this summer, and it looks like he's going to head to Manchester United. With that money coming in, could a move be made for Tyler Diblin? Diblin maybe wanting to make a move to a Brentford who are really smart and really clever with their recruitment and really clever on the pitch. And Thomas Frank is a great manager. It remains to be seen whether he'll take Ange's possible place at Tottenham or whether he'll be at Brentford this time next year. But if he is, he's a really smart manager, and Tyler Diblin would be really well off going to a Brentford and then looking to make that move to a Tottenham, to a Man United sort of club. It's Brentford have proven that they will let you go for the really reasonable price, and Burmo looking to go for around the 55-60 million mark. So why not take that gamble from Tyler Diblin and go and play every week under not a lot of pressure in a Brentford side compared to a big club? No disrespect to Brentford, but why not just take that leap to Brentford and then worry about the rest later down the line? And so my second suggestion, if Tyler Diblin isn't doable, is Rooney Bargi. Now, Bargi is a very exciting 19-year-old prospect out of Copenhagen, but he has suffered really badly over the last couple of seasons with injuries. You may be thinking, why are you putting him forward then? And that reason is it's Brentford. Over the last few years, Christian Eriksen, you look at Mikkel Damsgaard, these sort of players who have had knee problems, back problems, ankle problems, they've managed to make it as if they never happened. Brentford have really turned around injured players and made them into some of the best players in the league. And probably in a position where, like Mikkel Damsgaard, no top team's going to gamble on them, but Brentford will. Again, at just 19 years old, there is serious potential in Rooney Bargi to go to a Brentford and really succeed enough that he could get a top move for upwards of £50 million. Again, similar to Bryan Mbeumo, they've shown that they will let you go for the right amount of money. On top of this, it's important to note that Bargi looks like he's going to be moving on a free from Copenhagen this year. And so it's low risk for Brentford yet again, who could get in there and get a player who could be worth 40 plus million over the next few years. For Leeds United, I've gone with a goalkeeper, and that is Miles Villar of Roma. Now, I think if you ask any Leeds fan, any season ticket holder at Ellen Road, what do you want this summer? Chances are the first name that they're saying is a goalkeeper. Unfortunately, Jan Melia has just cost them too many times, in my opinion, in the Championship last year, and really could have nearly seen them not promoted yet again. He's just got one too many clangers in him for my liking, and for Leeds fans United's liking. And so I've suggested Miles Villar from Roma, who has really come on leaps and bounds this year since he's come into Roma and become that number one. He's got some of the best stats in Serie A for shot stopping, similar to Vanja Milinkovic-Savic, who's been linked to Manchester United. But again, just a goalkeeper that is potentially on the cusp of greatness. So why not get in there early as a team that will be rumoured to be in and around the relegation spots? Getting a number one that is set and really good will only put you in a good spot to survive this year. Now then, for Wolves, this is probably the one I'm most proud of, and that is Bilal El Khanous of Leicester City. Now, Bilal El Khanous, for me, is a player that went really under the radar last season, and he's going really under the radar during this summer transfer window's early stages. He's a player who can progress the ball from midfield to attack with ease and in a heartbeat, and for me, he was Leicester's best player last year. So to replace Matheus Cunha, a player who can operate in that left half space, it's a no-brainer for me. Just 21 years old, you could easily bring him in, develop him, and he could go on to become a really good player for Wolves before potentially even moving on for a really good transfer fee. From a relegated Leicester team, it's not going to cost you too much money, so Bilal El Khanous, for me, my suggestion for Wolves. And last but not least, we have left Manchester United, and my suggestion for United is Douglas Luiz. Luiz, for me, represents a really good opportunistic signing this summer. We've already dropping 60 million on Matheus Cunha, 50 plus million looking as though it's going to be allocated to Bryan Mbeumo, and a desperate clamour for Victor Gyökeres in the 60 to 70 million region mark. I think it's fair to say United still need more than that. They need a left-sided centre-half. In my opinion, they need a goalkeeper, and they are going to need another midfielder for depth. So what can you do about that? And that, for me, is Douglas Luiz. Juventus not particularly fancying the player over the course of the last season could mean that he could return to the Premier League for a cut price. He's proven at Aston Villa that both his on the ball and off the ball statistics are really, really up there. And if you give him 2 10s and a striker in front of him to play passes into, as well as wing backs bombing on either side, on the ball, I think Douglas Luiz could really do a lot in that team and offer the defensive qualities that are needed to play in an Amorim double pivot. And that is why, for me, it could even be on a loan. Douglas Luiz at a cut price fee for Manchester United is my suggestion. Well, there you have it. There is my one player every Premier League team should sign this summer transfer window. Thank you for watching. If you'd like and subscribe, I'll bring more of these over the course of the summer. And I'll see you in a bit. Thank you. Goodbye.